My dear friend, welcome. I am truly grateful that you have chosen to spend this precious time with me today. In a world filled with endless distractions and fleeting promises of easy success, you have made the conscious decision to seek something far more valuable, the timeless wisdom of discipline. In the next hour, I will share with you the exact principles that separate those who merely dream from those who achieve, the disciplined practices that history's greatest leaders used to transform not just their own lives, but the very fabric of civilization itself. From Andrew Carnegie's steel empire to modern entrepreneurs building billion-dollar companies, from Gandhi's spiritual revolution to today's relationship masters creating unbreakable bonds, you will discover the common thread that weaves through every extraordinary life. Before we begin this transformative journey together, I ask that you take a moment to like this message and subscribe. For when we gather as students of discipline and success, we amplify each other's commitment to excellence. Together, we are building something magnificent, a community of individuals who refuse to accept mediocrity in any area of life. The foundation of all achievement discipline is not merely about willpower or self-control. It is the master key that unlocks every door to human achievement. It is the invisible bridge between the life you're living and the life you're capable of creating. Without discipline, talent remains dormant, opportunity goes unrecognized, and dreams dissolve into regret. In my decades of studying the world's most successful individuals, I have discovered that discipline manifests in 5 distinct but interconnected dimensions: the discipline of mind, which governs our thoughts and beliefs; the discipline of body, which provides the energy foundation for all achievement; the discipline of soul, which aligns us with our deepest purpose; the discipline of relationships, which multiplies our impact through others; and the discipline of wealth, which provides the resources to create lasting legacy. Chapter 1: The Foundation of All Achievement. Understanding True Discipline. When I first encountered Andrew Carnegie, the Scottish immigrant who would become America's steel king, I was struck not by his wealth, but by his unwavering commitment to systematic excellence. Carnegie, who built the largest steel empire in history and gave away over $350 million in his lifetime, understood that discipline was not punishment, it was liberation. Every morning at precisely 6:30 a.m., Carnegie would begin his day with what he called his hour of preparation. He would review his goals, study market conditions, and most importantly, examine his character. He kept a daily journal where he recorded not just his business activities, but his moral inventory, where he had acted with integrity, where he had fallen short, and how he would improve. But Carnegie's discipline extended far beyond business. He understood that true success required harmony across all dimensions of life. Despite building an industrial empire, he maintained rigid discipline in his relationships. Family dinners were sacred, and he scheduled specific times for mentoring young executives. His discipline in wealth building was matched by his discipline in giving, as he systematically distributed his fortune according to his gospel of wealth philosophy. In studying the principles shared by modern Navy SEAL Commander Jocko Willink, I find remarkable alignment with Carnegie's approach. Willink, who led SEAL teams in Iraq's most dangerous areas and now runs the leadership consulting firm Echelon Front, teaches that discipline equals freedom. His daily 4:30 a.m. wake-up routine isn't about punishment. It's about claiming ownership of his day before the world makes demands on his time. Willink's philosophy mirrors what I observed in Carnegie, that discipline in one area creates freedom in all areas. When Carnegie disciplined himself to study every aspect of steel production, he gained the freedom to innovate and dominate his industry. When he disciplined himself to save and invest systematically, he gained the freedom to become one of history's greatest philanthropists. But perhaps the most profound insight comes from relationship expert Jeffrey Setiawan, who has developed what he calls the 5 pillars of thriving relationships. Setiawan teaches that successful relationships require what he terms 100% all-in commitment as a life obsession. This isn't casual effort, it's disciplined dedication to creating what he calls emotional safety, where any and all emotions are welcome. Setiawan's approach reveals something Carnegie and Willink also understood. Discipline is not about restricting yourself. It's about freeing yourself to become who you're truly meant to be. When you're disciplined in your relationships, you create the psychological safety where both partners can grow. When you're disciplined in your health, you create the energy to pursue your biggest dreams. When you're disciplined in your finances, you create the resources to serve others at the highest level. The foundation of all achievement rests on this truth. Discipline is the conscious choice to align your daily actions with your deepest values and highest aspirations. It is the decision to do what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not. But more than that, it is the recognition that every act of discipline is an investment in your future self and in the lives of those you're called to serve. Chapter 2: The Mind, Mental Discipline, and Cognitive Mastery. The human mind, when disciplined, becomes the most powerful force on earth. When undisciplined, it becomes our greatest enemy. Thomas Edison, the man who illuminated the world with over 1,093 patents, understood this fundamental truth. Edison's approach to mental discipline was systematic and relentless. Edison didn't just work hard, he worked with disciplined intelligence. When developing the incandescent light bulb, he didn't simply try random approaches. He created a systematic methodology for experimentation, documenting every failure, analyzing every result, and building upon each lesson learned. His famous declaration that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration wasn't about working harder. It was about working with disciplined persistence. Edison's mental discipline extended to his daily routines. He would wake at 5 a.m. and spend the first hour of his day in what he called thinking time. No newspapers, no conversations, just pure mental preparation. He trained his mind to focus completely on one problem at a time, often spending days or weeks in deep concentration on a single challenge. In studying the teachings of Tony Robbins, the peak performance coach who has transformed millions of lives, I find a remarkable echo of Edison's systematic approach. Robbins, author of Awaken the Giant Within, has developed what he calls the Hour of Power, a morning routine combining gratitude, visualization, and physical movement that conditions the mind for peak performance. Robbins understands what Edison knew. Your mental state determines your results, but Robbins has refined this understanding for our modern age. He teaches that mental discipline isn't just about positive thinking. It's about taking conscious control of your focus, your physiology, and your language. Every morning, Robbins practices what he calls priming, 6 minutes of specific breathing, gratitude, and visualization that sets his mental frequency for success. The wisdom shared by Jim Rohn, the business philosopher who mentored Tony Robbins, reminds us that mental discipline is fundamentally about becoming a student of life. Rohn, famous for teaching you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, understood that mental discipline requires careful curation of your inputs. Rohn practiced what he called disciplined study, reading for at least 1 hour every day, attending seminars regularly, and most importantly, immediately applying what he learned. He would say, "Formal education will make you a living, self-education will make you a fortune." But his approach to self-education was systematic and disciplined, not random or haphazard. Mental discipline manifests in 4 key areas that I have observed in every great achiever. First, disciplined focus. Edison could work for 18 hours straight on a single problem because he had trained his mind to eliminate distractions. In our modern world of constant interruption, this skill is more valuable than ever. Mental discipline means choosing what deserves your attention and protecting that choice fiercely. Second, disciplined learning. Great minds are disciplined about continuous growth. They read, study, and seek mentorship not casually but systematically. They understand that the mind, like the body, requires regular exercise to maintain peak performance. Third, disciplined thinking. This means taking conscious control of your thought patterns. Edison trained himself to think in terms of solutions, not problems. When faced with failure, he would ask, "What can this teach me?" rather than "Why did this happen to me?" Fourth, disciplined belief. Mental discipline ultimately comes down to believing in your ability to develop any skill, overcome any obstacle, and achieve any worthy goal. This isn't blind optimism. It's the disciplined cultivation of empowering beliefs based on evidence and experience. The mind is like a garden. Left undisciplined, it will grow weeds of doubt, fear, and limitation. But when cultivated with disciplined attention, it produces the fruits of creativity, courage, and achievement. Every great leader in history has understood this principle and has developed systematic practices to maintain mental discipline. Your mind is your most valuable asset. Treat it with the discipline it deserves, and it will reward you with capabilities you never imagined possible. Chapter 3: The Body, Physical Discipline as Life Foundation. The body is the temple of achievement, and physical discipline is the foundation upon which all other forms of success are built. No one understood this better than Theodore Roosevelt, who transformed from a sickly, asthmatic child into one of the most robust and energetic leaders in American history. Roosevelt's transformation didn't happen by accident. It was the result of systematic physical discipline. As a young man, he committed to what he called the strenuous life, engaging in boxing, hiking, hunting, and rigorous outdoor activities. Even as President of the United States, Roosevelt maintained his physical disciplines, often conducting meetings while walking or exercising. Roosevelt understood that physical discipline creates mental toughness. His daily routine included cold baths, vigorous exercise, and physical challenges that pushed his limits. He believed that conquering physical discomfort prepared him to handle any challenge in business or politics. This philosophy served him well when he was shot during a campaign speech and continued speaking for 90 minutes with the bullet still in his chest. When I examine the principles shared by David Goggins, the former Navy SEAL who transformed from a 300-pound pest control worker into an ultra-endurance athlete, I see the same fundamental truth that Roosevelt discovered. Goggins, author of Can't Hurt Me, teaches that physical discipline is the pathway to mental liberation. Goggins' approach to physical discipline is systematic and extreme. He wakes at 4 a.m. every day for a rigorous workout, regardless of how he feels. He regularly pushes his body to its limits through ultramarathons, triathlons, and military-style training. But his physical discipline isn't about punishment. It's about proving to himself daily that he can do hard things. Goggins has developed what he calls the 40% rule, the principle that when your mind tells you you're done, you're only 40% finished. Physical discipline teaches you to push beyond that mental barrier, and this capability transfers to every area of life. When you can discipline your body to do what it doesn't want to do, you can discipline your mind to think thoughts that create success rather than failure. Physical discipline manifests in 5 essential areas. First, energy management. Your body is your energy production system. Without disciplined attention to nutrition, exercise, and rest, you cannot sustain peak performance in any area. Roosevelt understood this. He ate simple, nutritious meals and maintained consistent sleep schedules even during his most demanding periods. Second, stress resilience. Physical discipline builds your capacity to handle stress. When you regularly challenge your body through exercise, you develop both physical and mental toughness. Goggins proves this principle. His extreme physical training prepared him not just for athletic achievements, but for the mental challenges of military service and business success. Third, confidence building. Every act of physical discipline builds unshakable confidence. When you keep commitments to yourself about exercise, nutrition, and health, you develop the self-trust necessary for achievement in all areas. You prove to yourself that you can do what you say you'll do. Fourth, discipline transfer. Physical discipline creates a foundation for all other disciplines. When you master your body, you develop the willpower and consistency necessary to master your finances, relationships, and career. The person who can wake up at 5 a.m. for a workout can also wake up at 5 a.m. to work on their business. Fifth, longevity and legacy. Physical discipline isn't just about immediate performance. It's about creating the vitality to serve at the highest level for decades. Roosevelt lived this principle, maintaining his energy and enthusiasm well into his later years because he had invested in his physical foundation. Your body is not separate from your success. It is the vehicle through which all success flows. When you discipline your body, you discipline your life. When you neglect your body, you undermine everything else you're trying to achieve. The most successful people in history have understood that physical discipline is not vanity. It is strategy. It is the foundation that supports the structure of an extraordinary life. Chapter 4: The Soul, Spiritual Discipline and Purpose Alignment. The soul is the compass of achievement. and spiritual discipline is what keeps us aligned with our deepest purpose. No leader in history better exemplified this principle than Mahatma Gandhi, who led India's independence movement through the power of disciplined spiritual practice. Gandhi's daily routine was built around spiritual discipline. He woke at 4 a.m. every morning for prayer and meditation, regardless of his circumstances. Whether he was in prison, leading marches, or negotiating with world leaders, this spiritual practice remained constant. He understood that external achievements mean nothing without internal alignment. Gandhi's approach to spiritual discipline was systematic and practical. He practiced what he called satyagraha, holding firmly to truth, which required daily examination of his thoughts, words, and actions. He maintained disciplines of fasting, prayer, and service not as religious obligations, but as practices that connected him to his highest purpose. But Gandhi's spiritual discipline wasn't separate from his worldly achievements. It was the source of his power. His unwavering commitment to his spiritual principles gave him the strength to face imprisonment, physical attacks, and enormous political pressure. His spiritual discipline created the clarity that enabled him to see solutions others missed, and the courage to act on those solutions. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who ruled the most powerful empire in history while maintaining the discipline of Stoic philosophy, provides another model of spiritual discipline. Aurelius wrote his famous meditations as daily reflections on virtue, duty, and self-discipline. These weren't philosophical abstractions. They were practical exercises for maintaining spiritual alignment while managing enormous responsibilities. Aurelius understood that spiritual discipline is about taking responsibility for your inner state, regardless of external circumstances. His meditations show a man constantly working to align his actions with his values, to maintain perspective during challenges, and to serve others while maintaining his own integrity. In studying the insights of Simon Sinek, the leadership expert and author of Start With Why, I find remarkable alignment with both Gandhi's and Aurelius's approach to spiritual discipline. Sinek teaches that great leaders start with purpose. They know their why and use it as a compass for every decision. Sinek's approach to spiritual discipline involves daily practices of purpose reflection. He regularly asks himself whether his actions are aligned with his deeper mission of inspiring others to do what inspires them. This isn't casual reflection. It's disciplined self-examination that ensures his external success serves his internal purpose. Spiritual discipline manifests in 5 essential practices. First, daily reflection. Like Gandhi and Aurelius, spiritual discipline requires regular examination of your thoughts, actions, and alignment with your values. This isn't self-criticism, it's conscious course correction toward your highest self. Second, purpose clarity. Spiritual discipline means getting clear on your deepest why, the purpose that gives meaning to your efforts. This requires honest self-examination and often difficult choices about what you will and won't do. Third, service orientation. True spiritual discipline always includes service to others. Gandhi, Aurelius, and Sinek all understood that personal fulfillment comes through contributing to something larger than yourself. Fourth, principle-based decision-making. Spiritual discipline means making decisions based on your values rather than convenience or immediate pleasure. This requires the courage to do what's right, even when it's difficult. Fifth, gratitude and humility. Spiritual discipline includes recognition of the gifts you've been given and the responsibility that comes with them. This creates both appreciation for what you have and motivation to use it well. Your soul is the source of your deepest power. When you align your daily actions with your spiritual values, you tap into an unlimited source of energy and motivation. When you neglect spiritual discipline, you may achieve external success, but you will lack the fulfillment and meaning that make achievement worthwhile. The greatest leaders in history have understood that spiritual discipline is not optional, it is essential. It is what transforms achievement from mere accumulation into genuine contribution. Chapter 5, Relationships, Disciplined Love and Connection. Relationships are the multiplier of achievement, and disciplined love is what transforms good relationships into extraordinary ones. John D. Rockefeller, America's first billionaire who built Standard Oil, understood this principle profoundly. Despite managing an empire that demanded constant attention, Rockefeller maintained rigid discipline in his family relationships. Rockefeller established what he called sacred time, periods that were absolutely protected for family interaction. Every evening from 6 to 8 p.m. was reserved for family dinner and conversation, regardless of business pressures. He scheduled specific times for one-on-one conversations with each of his children, treating these appointments with the same respect he gave to business meetings. But Rockefeller's relationship discipline went deeper than time management. He understood that love requires intentional cultivation. He studied his family members' interests, dreams, and challenges with the same systematic attention he applied to business. He kept detailed notes about their goals and regularly followed up on their progress. Rockefeller's approach to wealth building was matched by his discipline in relationship building. He understood that financial success without family harmony was ultimately hollow. His disciplined approach to relationships created the foundation for a family legacy that continues to this day. The wisdom shared by Jeffrey Setiawan, the relationship expert who developed the 5 pillars of thriving relationships, provides a modern framework for understanding disciplined love. Setiawan teaches that successful relationships require what he calls 100% all-in commitment as a life obsession. Setiawan's first pillar is emotional safety, creating an environment where any and all emotions are welcome. This requires the discipline to receive your partner's emotions without judgment, even when they're difficult or uncomfortable. It means disciplining yourself to listen with genuine curiosity rather than defensiveness. His second pillar is psychological safety, helping your partner trust the changes you're making. Setiawan teaches that you must discipline yourself to consistent behavior that demonstrates your commitment to growth. As he puts it, "Can I help my wife's brain see that the new me is here to stay?" The third pillar is mutual admiration, maintaining deep respect where 90% of the conflicts that you have in your marriage are going to be opportunities to bond and get closer. This requires disciplining yourself to look for the positive in your partner, especially during difficult times. Goal alignment, the fourth pillar, means disciplining yourself to create unity in values and vision. Setiawan teaches that once you're on the same page with your values and your goals for the future, you feel like you're an unbreakable team. The fifth pillar is sexual passion, creating a culture of sexual passion that doesn't feel like a chore. This requires disciplining yourself to maintain romance and intimacy even when life becomes demanding. Setiawan's approach reveals 3 layers of personal change that apply to all relationships. Layer 1, frameworks, learning the tools and tactics of healthy relationships. This includes communication skills, conflict resolution, and emotional intelligence. Layer 2, bulletproof mindset, developing reflexive patterns of love and respect. This means disciplining yourself to respond with love even when you don't feel like it. Layer 3, identity shifting, moving from trying to be a better partner to I am a great partner. This requires disciplining yourself to act from your highest identity rather than your momentary emotions. When I examine the principles shared by Stephen Bartlett, the British entrepreneur and host of The Diary of a CEO, I find similar insights about disciplined relationships. Bartlett openly discusses how he maintains deep connections while building multiple businesses, understanding that success without relationships is meaningless. Bartlett practices what he calls relationship auditing, regularly evaluating the health of his key relationships and making intentional investments in improvement. He schedules relationship time with the same discipline he applies to business meetings, understanding that love requires attention and intention. Disciplined love manifests in 5 essential practices. First, intentional attention. Like Rockefeller, you must protect time for the people who matter most. This isn't leftover time, it's prime time when you're fully present and engaged. Second, emotional discipline. This means managing your own emotions so you can be fully available for others. When you're triggered, disciplined love requires you to pause, breathe, and respond from your highest self. Third, growth partnership. Disciplined love means committing to mutual growth. You celebrate each other's successes and support each other through challenges. You become partners in becoming your best selves. Fourth, forgiveness and grace. Relationships require the discipline to forgive quickly and completely. This doesn't mean accepting poor behavior. It means choosing love over resentment. Fifth, legacy building. Disciplined love thinks beyond the immediate relationship to the legacy you're creating together. What example are you setting? What are you building that will outlast you? Your relationships are your greatest asset and your greatest responsibility. When you bring discipline to love, you create connections that multiply your impact and fulfill your deepest need for meaning and connection. Chapter 6, Wealth, Financial Discipline and Legacy Building. Wealth is not just about accumulation, it is about stewardship, and financial discipline is what transforms money from a source of stress into a tool for service. J.P. Morgan, the American financier who dominated corporate finance during the Gilded Age, understood this principle better than perhaps any financier in history. Morgan's approach to wealth building was systematic and disciplined. He didn't chase quick profits or speculate on trends. Instead, he developed what he called principled investing, backing businesses with sound fundamentals, competent management, and long-term potential. His discipline and analysis was legendary. He would spend months studying a potential investment, examining every aspect of the business before committing capital. But Morgan's financial discipline extended beyond his investment decisions. He maintained meticulous records of every transaction, regularly reviewed his portfolio performance, and most importantly, he lived below his means despite enormous wealth. He understood that wealth creation requires delayed gratification and systematic saving. Morgan's legacy demonstrates that financial discipline is not about deprivation. It's about creating the resources to serve at the highest level. His disciplined approach to wealth building enabled him to stabilize the American economy during several financial crises, and to support countless businesses and individuals. Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha, provides a modern example of the same principled approach to wealth building. Buffett, who built one of the largest fortunes in history through disciplined value investing, has maintained the same systematic approach to wealth for over 6 decades. Buffett's financial discipline is evident in every aspect of his life. He reads for hours every day, continuously educating himself about markets, businesses, and economic trends. He maintains detailed records of his investments and regularly reviews his decisions to learn from both successes and failures. Most importantly, he lives modestly despite his enormous wealth, understanding that true wealth is about freedom, not consumption. In studying the teachings of Graham Stephan, the real estate investor and YouTuber known for his systematic approach to building wealth, I find remarkable alignment with Morgan's and Buffett's principles. Stephan practices what he calls extreme budgeting discipline, tracking every expense and making conscious decisions about every purchase. Stephan's approach to wealth building is methodical and patient. He focuses on acquiring income-producing assets, particularly real estate, that generate passive income over time. His discipline in saving and investing has enabled him to build substantial wealth while still in his 20s, proving that financial discipline is more important than income level. The wisdom shared by Alex Hormozi, the entrepreneur who built and sold multiple companies and is known for his systematic approach to value creation, provides additional insights into financial discipline. Hormozi, author of 100 Million Offers, teaches that wealth building requires disciplined focus on creating value for others. Hormozi's approach to wealth building is based on what he calls value-first thinking, focusing on solving problems for customers rather than making money for yourself. His discipline in reinvesting profits back into business growth, rather than lifestyle inflation, has enabled him to build multiple successful companies. Financial discipline manifests in 6 essential practices. First, disciplined saving. This means paying yourself first, setting aside a percentage of every dollar you earn before spending on anything else. Buffett and Stephan both practice this principle religiously, understanding that wealth building requires consistent saving over time. Second, disciplined investing. This involves educating yourself about investment options and making systematic, long-term investment decisions. Morgan and Buffett both demonstrate that disciplined investing beats speculation every time. Third, disciplined spending. This means distinguishing between needs and wants and making conscious decisions about every purchase. This isn't about deprivation. It's about intentional allocation of resources toward your highest priorities. Fourth, disciplined learning. Financial discipline requires continuous education about money, investing, and business. The most successful wealth builders are voracious learners who continuously update their knowledge. Fifth, disciplined value creation. Like Hormozy, disciplined wealth building focuses on creating value for others. When you solve problems for people, money follows naturally. Sixth, disciplined giving. True wealth discipline includes systematic giving to causes you care about. Morgan, Buffett, and most successful wealth builders understand that wealth is a tool for service, not just accumulation. Your relationship with money reveals your relationship with yourself and your values. When you bring discipline to wealth building, you create not just financial security, but the resources to serve others and create lasting impact. Financial discipline is not about becoming wealthy. It's about becoming the kind of person who can handle wealth responsibly and use it to make a positive difference in the world. Chapter 7, The Compound Effect: How Disciplined Actions Create Exponential Results. The compound effect is the most powerful force in human achievement, and disciplined consistency is what activates this force. Andrew Carnegie understood this principle better than perhaps any entrepreneur in history. His transformation from a poor Scottish immigrant to America's steel king wasn't the result of one brilliant decision. It was the result of thousands of small, disciplined actions compounded over decades. Carnegie's approach to building his steel empire was methodical and systematic. He didn't just work in his business, he worked on it. Every day, he would spend time studying his operations, analyzing his competition, and identifying areas for improvement. He implemented what he called vertical integration, systematically acquiring every aspect of steel production, from raw materials to finished products. But Carnegie's compound effect extended beyond business operations. He applied the same disciplined approach to relationship building, systematically cultivating connections with suppliers, customers, and political leaders. He invested in his knowledge base, hiring experts and continuously learning about new technologies and methods. Carnegie's systematic approach to cost reduction provides a perfect example of compound effect in action. Rather than seeking dramatic cost cuts, he implemented small improvements throughout his operations. A 1% reduction in fuel costs, a 2% improvement in production efficiency, a 3% decrease in waste. These small improvements compounded over time to create massive competitive advantages. In studying the principles shared by Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, who built one of the world's most valuable companies through systematic long-term thinking, I find remarkable alignment with Carnegie's approach. Bezos is famous for his day 1% mentality, the discipline of maintaining startup urgency and customer obsession even as Amazon grew into a global giant. Bezos's approach to compound effect is evident in Amazon's systematic innovation. Rather than making random improvements, Bezos implemented disciplined systems for continuous innovation. He established what he calls 2 pizza teams, small groups that can be fed with 2 pizzas, that can move quickly and experiment systematically. Bezos understood that compound effect requires disciplined patience. While competitors focused on quarterly results, Bezos made decisions based on long-term compound value. His willingness to sacrifice short-term profits for long-term growth created the compound effect that transformed Amazon from an online bookstore into a global technology leader. The compound effect operates through several key principles. First, small improvements daily. Carnegie's 1% improvements in multiple areas created massive competitive advantages over time. The person who improves 1% daily in their health, relationships, skills, and finances will see exponential results over months and years. Second, systematic consistency. Compound effect requires disciplined consistency over time. One workout doesn't create fitness, but working out consistently for years creates extraordinary health. One day of saving doesn't create wealth, but saving consistently for decades creates financial freedom. Third, delayed gratification. Compound effect requires sacrificing immediate pleasure for long-term gain. Bezos sacrificed short-term profits to build long-term value. Carnegie lived modestly while reinvesting profits back into his business. Fourth, systematic learning. Both Carnegie and Bezos were voracious learners who continuously upgraded their knowledge and skills. They understood that compound learning creates compound results. Fifth, relationship compound. The compound effect works in relationships too. Small acts of kindness, consistent communication, and regular appreciation compound over time to create deep, lasting bonds. The most powerful aspect of compound effect is that it works in all areas of life simultaneously. When you apply disciplined consistency to your health, relationships, learning, and finances, the results don't just add up, they multiply each other. Consider the executive who wakes up 30 minutes earlier each day to exercise. The improved health creates better mental clarity, which improves work performance, which creates better financial results, which reduces stress, which improves relationships, which creates more support for continued growth. This is compound effect in action. The challenge of compound effect is that it requires faith in the process. The results are invisible at first, and it's easy to abandon the disciplines before they have time to compound. Carnegie faced this challenge repeatedly. There were years when his investments in new technology and infrastructure seemed to drain profits without creating results. But Carnegie understood that compound effect requires what he called patient persistence, the discipline to continue the right actions even when results aren't immediately visible. He knew that compound effect starts slowly, but once it reaches critical mass, it accelerates exponentially. Your life is the sum of your daily disciplines compounded over time. Every disciplined action you take today is an investment in your future self. Every undisciplined action is a debt that must be paid with interest. The compound effect is always working, either for you or against you. The question is, what are you compounding? Chapter 8: Overcoming the Discipline Killers. Every journey toward disciplined excellence faces specific enemies, patterns of thinking and behaving that destroy discipline before it can take root. The greatest leaders in history have faced these same challenges, and their methods for overcoming them provide a roadmap for our own victory. Laziness is the first great enemy of discipline. It disguises itself as comfort, rest, or taking it easy, but it is actually the destroyer of dreams. Theodore Roosevelt faced this enemy as a sickly child who could have easily accepted a life of limitation. Instead, he chose what he called the strenuous life, deliberately seeking challenges that would force him to grow. Roosevelt understood that laziness is not overcome by willpower alone. It is overcome by systematic habits that make the right action automatic. He established non-negotiable daily routines that didn't depend on how he felt. His morning exercise, his reading schedule, his work habits, all were systematized to remove the opportunity for laziness to influence his decisions. Procrastination is the second great enemy, and it is perhaps more dangerous than laziness because it feels productive. The procrastinator is always planning, preparing, and getting ready to act, but never actually acting. Benjamin Franklin faced this enemy and developed what he called his virtue system, a systematic approach to character development that included specific daily practices. Franklin's approach to overcoming procrastination was brilliant in its simplicity. He identified the specific virtues he wanted to develop and focused on one at a time for an entire week. He carried a small notebook and made a mark every time he violated the virtue he was working on. This system removed the ambiguity that feeds procrastination and created immediate accountability. In studying the principles shared by Dan Pena, the trillion-dollar man and high-performance business coach, I find a modern approach to overcoming discipline killers. Pena teaches what he calls extreme accountability, creating systems that make it impossible to avoid doing what you've committed to do. Pena's approach to discipline is based on what he calls massive action, taking immediate, decisive action on every important decision. He teaches that procrastination is killed by momentum, and momentum is created by taking action even when you don't feel ready. Pena's system includes what he calls weekly reviews, systematic examination of what you committed to do versus what you actually did. This creates thoroughfare continuated accountability that kills procrastination before it can take hold. He understands that discipline is not about perfection. It's about honest self-evaluation and immediate course correction. The wisdom shared by Myron Golden, the business strategist who teaches systematic approaches to wealth building and personal discipline, provides additional insights into overcoming discipline killers. Golden teaches that most discipline failures come from what he calls emotional decision-making, making choices based on how you feel rather than what you've committed to do. Golden's approach to discipline is based on what he calls identity-based decisions, making choices based on who you're committed to being rather than how you feel in the moment. When you identify as a disciplined person, disciplined actions become automatic expressions of your identity, rather than difficult choices you have to make. Distraction is the third great enemy of discipline, and in our modern world, it may be the most dangerous. We live in an environment designed to capture and fragment our attention. Social media, news, entertainment, and even well-meaning friends and family can pull us away from our most important priorities. The great leaders of history didn't face digital distractions, but they faced the same fundamental challenge, protecting their attention from less important demands. Carnegie scheduled specific times for different types of activities and protected those boundaries fiercely. When he was in thinking time, nothing was allowed to interrupt. When he was in family time, business concerns were set aside. Modern discipline requires even more systematic protection of attention. This means creating sacred spaces. Designate specific times and places for your most important work that are completely free from distractions. Turn off notifications, put devices in another room, and protect your focus like your life depends on it, because it does. Batching similar activities. Instead of checking email throughout the day, designate specific times for communication. Instead of making decisions randomly, create specific times for decision-making. This reduces the mental energy required for discipline. The 24-hour rule. For any major decision, implement a 24-hour waiting period. This prevents impulsive choices that undermine long-term discipline. Most discipline failures happen in moments of emotional reactivity. Environment design. Make disciplined choices easier and undisciplined choices harder. If you want to eat healthily, remove junk food from your environment. If you want to exercise, lay out your workout clothes the night before. Instant gratification is the fourth great enemy of discipline. We live in a culture that promises immediate results with minimum effort. This creates unrealistic expectations that lead to abandoning good disciplines before they have time to work. Roosevelt understood that discipline requires what he called the long view, the ability to sacrifice immediate pleasure for long-term gain. He trained himself to find satisfaction in the process of growth rather than just in the results. The antidote to instant gratification addiction is what I call process reward, learning to find genuine satisfaction in doing the right thing regardless of immediate results. This requires retraining your brain to value consistency over intensity, progress over perfection. Fear is the fifth and perhaps most subtle enemy of discipline. Fear of failure leads to paralysis. Fear of success leads to self-sabotage. Fear of judgment leads to people-pleasing that undermines authentic discipline. Gandhi faced enormous fear, physical danger, imprisonment, failure of his movement, but he developed what he called fearless discipline. He understood that fear is overcome not by feeling brave, but by acting courageously despite the fear. The key to overcoming fear-based discipline killers is what psychologists call values-based action, taking action based on your deepest values rather than your temporary emotions. When your discipline serves something larger than yourself, fear loses much of its power. Overcoming discipline killers requires systematic preparation. First, identify your pattern. Most people have one primary discipline killer: laziness, procrastination, distraction, instant gratification, or fear. Identify which one most often derails you and create specific strategies to address it. Second, create systems, not goals. Goals rely on motivation, which is temporary. Systems rely on automation, which is permanent. Create systems that make disciplined action automatic. Third, build accountability. Share your commitments with people who will hold you accountable. Join groups of like-minded individuals who share your commitment to discipline. Fourth, practice progressive difficulty. Start with small disciplines you can maintain consistently, then gradually increase the difficulty. This builds confidence and capability over time. Fifth, celebrate process wins. Acknowledge and celebrate disciplined actions even when results aren't visible yet. This reinforces the behavior and makes it more likely to continue. The discipline killers are real and powerful, but they are not insurmountable. Every great leader in history has faced these same enemies and developed strategies to overcome them. Your success depends not on being perfect, but on being prepared for the challenges that will inevitably come. Chapter 9, The Disciplined Leader, Inspiring Others Through Example. True leadership is not about commanding others. It is about inspiring them through the power of disciplined example. George Washington, the first president of the United States, understood this principle better than perhaps any leader in history. Washington's leadership was not based on charisma or political skill. It was based on unshakable personal discipline that inspired others to follow his example. Washington's daily routine during the Revolutionary War was legendary among his troops. While other generals enjoyed comfortable quarters and special privileges, Washington maintained the same disciplines he demanded of his soldiers. He woke before dawn, inspected the camps personally, and shared the hardships of military life. His soldiers followed him not because they had to, but because his example inspired them to be better than they thought possible. But Washington's disciplined leadership extended far beyond military service. When offered the opportunity to become king of the new nation, he voluntarily stepped down, an act of disciplined self-restraint that shocked the world. King George III called it the greatest act of the age, saying that if Washington could give up power voluntarily, he will be the greatest man in the world. Washington understood that disciplined leadership means doing what's right, even when it costs you personally. His willingness to sacrifice personal gain for principle established the standard for American leadership and created the foundation for peaceful transfer of power that continues today. In studying the principle shared by Grant Cardone, the real estate mogul and sales trainer known for his 10 times philosophy, I find a modern application of Washington's leadership principles. Cardone built a billion-dollar real estate portfolio not just through his own discipline, but by inspiring others to adopt disciplined approaches to wealth building. Cardone's approach to leadership is based on what he calls leading by massive action. He doesn't just teach principles, he demonstrates them through his own disciplined daily routine. He wakes at 5 a.m., exercises rigorously, studies market conditions, and takes massive action on his goals. His team follows his example because they see the results of his discipline in his own life. Cardone understands that disciplined leadership requires what he calls extreme accountability, holding yourself to higher standards than you hold others. He regularly shares his goals, tracks his progress publicly, and admits his failures honestly. This creates credibility that makes others willing to follow his guidance. Jeffrey Setiawan's approach to relationship leadership provides another model for disciplined leadership. In his relationship framework, Setiawan teaches that being a great partner requires leading by example in emotional maturity, consistent growth, and unwavering commitment to the relationship. Setiawan's concept of 100% all-in commitment means taking full responsibility for the health of the relationship without trying to control your partner's responses. This requires the discipline to focus on your own actions and growth rather than trying to change others. When I examine the leadership principles shared by Stephen Bartlett, the British entrepreneur and host of The Diary of a CEO, I find similar insights about leading through disciplined example. Bartlett built multiple successful companies by inspiring teams through his own commitment to continuous learning and systematic improvement. Bartlett practices what he calls transparent leadership, sharing both his successes and failures with his team. He regularly discusses his personal disciplines, his learning process, and his mistakes. This creates psychological safety that allows others to take risks and grow. Disciplined leadership manifests in 6 essential areas. First, self-leadership. Before you can lead others, you must lead yourself. This means maintaining personal disciplines in health, learning, relationships, and character, even when no one is watching. Washington's private discipline enabled his public leadership. Second, consistent example. Disciplined leaders do what they say they'll do, when they say they'll do it, regardless of circumstances. This consistency creates trust, which is the foundation of all leadership influence. Third, transparent accountability. Like Cardone and Bartlett, disciplined leaders share their goals, track their progress, and admit their failures. This creates credibility and gives others permission to be imperfect while striving for excellence. Fourth, values-based decision-making. Disciplined leaders make decisions based on principles rather than convenience. Washington's decision to step down from power is the ultimate example of values-based leadership. Fifth, development focus. Disciplined leaders are more concerned with developing people than using them. They understand that true leadership legacy is measured by the leaders you create, not the followers you gather. Sixth, service orientation. Like Gandhi and Washington, disciplined leaders see leadership as service, not privilege. They use their influence to serve others and create positive impact. Disciplined leadership requires understanding the difference between authority and influence. Authority is given by position. Influence is earned through character. Washington had both, but his lasting impact came from his character-based influence. In our modern world, this distinction is more important than ever. People follow authentic leaders who demonstrate integrity through consistent, disciplined action. They resist leaders who demand compliance without demonstrating character. Creating a culture of discipline requires systematic approach. First, model the behavior. Be the example of what you want to see in others. Your personal disciplines speak louder than your words about discipline. Second, create clear standards. Establish specific expectations for performance and behavior. Discipline thrives in environments with clear boundaries and consistent accountability. Third, celebrate disciplined action. Recognize and reward people for doing the right thing, especially when it's difficult. This reinforces the behaviors you want to see repeated. Fourth, address undisciplined behavior. Deal with violations of standards quickly and fairly. Allowing undisciplined behavior undermines the entire culture. Fifth, provide support systems. Help people develop the skills and habits necessary for disciplined action. Leadership includes creating environments where discipline can flourish. Sixth, focus on why. Help people connect their daily disciplines to their deeper purpose. When people understand how discipline serves their values, they become self-motivated. Your leadership influence is directly proportional to your personal discipline. The more disciplined you are in your own life, the more others will trust your guidance in theirs. True leaders understand that their greatest responsibility is not to achieve results, but to develop people who can achieve results. This requires the discipline to invest in others, even when it doesn't provide immediate returns. Chapter 10, Your Personal Discipline Blueprint. Now comes the moment of truth, transforming these timeless principles into your personal system for disciplined excellence. Creating your discipline blueprint is not about perfection. It is about systematic progress toward the person you are committed to becoming. Your discipline blueprint must address all 5 dimensions of holistic success: mind, body, soul, relationships, and wealth. Like a master architect, you must design a structure that supports your highest aspirations while being practical enough to implement consistently. First, conduct an honest assessment of your current state. Andrew Carnegie once said, "The first step toward improvement is honest recognition of where you stand." Take inventory of your current disciplines and undisciplined patterns across all 5 areas. For your mind, how consistently do you engage in learning? Do you have a systematic approach to personal development? Are you disciplined about what information you consume? Do you practice mental focus exercises? For your body, what is your current level of physical fitness? Do you have consistent exercise routines? Are you disciplined about nutrition and sleep? How is your energy level throughout the day? For your soul, are you clear about your deepest purpose and values? Do you have regular spiritual practices? Are your daily actions aligned with your values? Do you feel fulfilled or just busy? For your relationships, how is the quality of your most important relationships? Do you invest time and energy systematically in the people who matter most? Are you practicing Jeffrey Satyawan's 5 pillars consistently? For your wealth, what is your current financial discipline? Do you save and invest systematically? Are you creating value for others? Do you have multiple income streams developing? Second, establish your discipline vision. Like Simon Sinek's start with why principle, you must get clear about the deeper purpose that will fuel your disciplined actions. Your discipline vision should answer this question: what kind of person do I want to become, and how will that serve others? Write a clear description of yourself operating at peak discipline across all 5 areas. What does your ideal day look like? How do you handle challenges? What results are you creating? How are you serving others? This vision becomes your North Star during difficult moments. Third, design your core daily disciplines. Based on the examples of leaders like Roosevelt, Gandhi, Carnegie, and modern masters like Tony Robbins and Jocko Willink, create a set of non-negotiable daily practices that support your vision. Your morning routine should include elements that strengthen all 5 areas. Mind discipline. Begin each day with reading, meditation, or learning something new. Tony Robbins' Hour of Power combines gratitude, visualization, and goal review. Adapt this to your schedule. Even 15 minutes of focused mental conditioning can transform your day. Body discipline include physical activity that energizes you. This might be Jocko's intense workout, Roosevelt's vigorous walk, or David Goggins' extreme training. The key is consistency, not intensity. Start with what you can maintain daily. Soul discipline include time for reflection, prayer, or connection with your deeper purpose. Gandhi's morning meditation and Marcus Aurelius's daily reflections provide models for this practice. Relationship discipline, plan specific actions to strengthen your most important relationships. This might be Rockefeller's protected family time or Satyawin's daily practices for emotional and psychological safety. Wealth discipline include actions that create value and build assets. This might be Warren Buffett's systematic reading, Graham Stephan's expense tracking, or Alex Hormozi's focus on solving problems for others. Fourth, create your accountability systems. Discipline requires measurement and adjustment. Like Benjamin Franklin's virtue tracking system, you need specific ways to monitor your progress and make course corrections. Weekly reviews are essential. Every week, evaluate your performance across all 5 areas. What disciplines did you maintain consistently? Where did you struggle? What adjustments need to be made? Monthly assessments provide larger perspective. Are your disciplines creating the results you want? Do your systems need upgrading? Are you becoming the person you envisioned? Find accountability partners who share your commitment to disciplined excellence. This might be family members, friends, coaches, or mastermind groups. Share your goals and progress regularly. Fifth, implement progressive discipline building. Start with disciplines you can maintain with 80% consistency, then gradually increase the difficulty. Dan Peña's massive action approach works for some people, but most achieve better results through systematic progression. Month 1, focus on establishing one core discipline in each area. Maybe it's 20 minutes of morning reading, 30 minutes of exercise, 10 minutes of reflection, 1 meaningful conversation daily, and tracking all expenses. Month 2, increase the intensity or add complementary disciplines. Maybe it's adding goal visualization to your reading time, increasing exercise duration, adding prayer to reflection time, scheduling weekly relationship conversations, and beginning systematic investing. Month 3, continue building until you have robust systems in all 5 areas that support your highest vision. Sixth, prepare for discipline challenges. Like Roosevelt preparing for the strenuous life, you must anticipate and prepare for the obstacles that will test your commitment. Identify your primary discipline killers from Chapter 8. Create specific strategies for each one. If procrastination is your challenge, implement Franklin's systematic approach. If distraction is your weakness, create Carnegie's protected time blocks. Plan for difficult seasons. How will you maintain disciplines during travel, illness, family emergencies, or work pressures? Having contingency plans prevents temporary setbacks from becoming permanent failures. Create reward systems for discipline milestones. Celebrate consistency, not just results. This reinforces the behaviors you want to maintain long term. 7. Focus on integration and compound effect. Your 5 discipline areas should reinforce each other, creating exponential results over time. Physical discipline creates energy for mental discipline. Mental discipline creates clarity for spiritual discipline. Spiritual discipline creates purpose for relationship discipline. Relationship discipline creates support for wealth discipline. Wealth discipline creates resources for greater service. Like Carnegie's systematic approach to steel production, look for ways to create vertical integration in your personal development. How can your morning routine serve multiple areas simultaneously? How can your relationship discipline support your wealth building? How can your spiritual practices enhance your physical performance? Your discipline blueprint is not a rigid cage. It is a flexible framework that supports your highest aspirations. It should evolve as you grow, always serving your deepest purpose while adapting to changing circumstances. Remember that discipline is not about punishment, it is about freedom. Every disciplined action is an investment in your future self and in your ability to serve others at the highest level. The leaders we have studied, from Washington to Gandhi, from Carnegie to modern masters like Tony Robbins and Jeffrey Setiawan, all understood that discipline is the price of greatness. But they also understood that the price of undisciplined living is far higher. Your discipline blueprint is your personal constitution, the fundamental principles that will guide your daily decisions and create your extraordinary life. Now, my friend, you possess a complete blueprint for disciplined excellence across every dimension of life. You have learned from history's greatest leaders and modern masters who have proven these principles in today's world. Take action immediately, not tomorrow, not next week, but today. Choose one discipline from each area and begin implementing it now. Start your morning routine tomorrow. Schedule your weekly relationship conversation. Track your expenses today. Begin reading for personal development tonight. Strengthen your mind through systematic learning. Honor your body through consistent movement. Align your soul with your deepest purpose. Deepen your relationships through disciplined love. And build wealth through systematic value creation. The path of disciplined excellence is not easy, but it is simple. Do what you say you'll do, when you say you'll do it, regardless of how you feel. Make this commitment to yourself and to those who depend on you. If this message has illuminated new pathways for disciplined success, I ask that you like this video and subscribe to join our growing community of holistic achievers. Together, we are building the Thought Leaders Mindset Community, a gathering of individuals committed to excellence in every dimension of life. Your complete success lifts all of us. When you become disciplined in your own life, you give others permission to do the same. When you demonstrate what's possible through systematic excellence, you inspire others to reach for their own greatness. Until we meet again, live with discipline, love with intention, and achieve with purpose. The world needs what you have to offer, but only you can develop the discipline to offer it at the highest level. Your extraordinary life awaits. The question is not whether you can achieve it, the question is whether you will discipline yourself to claim it.